When you need a quick and easy vegetable-filled dinner, consider this shrimp egg roll in a bowl. I bet you're gonna love it. Welcome to the Salted Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food and we keep it real simple. Today's recipe is so easy and it's so delicious. I'm gonna make it in the Ninja Foodi because I'm using sear saute, just like you would in a pan on the stove, but I've got a really deep pot and it just makes everything so simple to throw in there and saute up. But you could absolutely use a big, large skillet on the stove and the instructions will be exactly the same. All right, so let's go ahead and get our Ninja Foodi set up. Sear saute is what we want, high is what we want. Hit start. Then you're gonna add in 1 to 2 tablespoons of toasted sesame oil. Now, it depends on how much you like that taste of sesame oil, whether you use 1 or 2, or if you don't like it at all, you could use avocado oil or olive oil or any other kind of oil that you like. But I happen to love the flavors that the sesame oil brings in, and I did not find that 2 tablespoons was too much, but you use your judgment in that. You could certainly back it down to 1. After the sesame oil heats up slightly, I'm gonna add in some bigger vegetables. These are Vidalia or sweet onions that are just cut a little bit bigger. And these are carrots, obviously, you know what they are, right? And they are cut a little bit bigger than the shredded ones we have in this vegetable mix here. And then underneath, I also have some celery. 1 stalk of celery, 1 carrot, and 1 small sweet onion. I like that for texture. Because when I'm eating egg roll in a bowl, whether I'm gonna make it with a ground turkey or chicken or shrimp or whatever, I like that texture. So that's what I do. Totally optional though. You do not have to add those in. Then for the rest of our vegetables, I have a mix which is basically just like a coleslaw mix. So if you wanted to save some time in prepping, definitely just grab 1 pound of a coleslaw mix that has these ingredients and you're good to go, okay? So what I have here is some green cabbage that I've shredded. I have some purple cabbage that I've shredded and a carrot that I shredded. Probably a total of between 5 and 6 cups. And you could mix and match this. I mean, if you don't want carrots in it, leave them out. If you don't want the purple cabbage, leave it out. You know, you could make it with all purple cabbage. However, I will tell you that your whole dish will look purple after you're done if you use all purple cabbage. All right, so that's gonna go in a few minutes after we start sauteing these vegetables. The reason being is that they're bigger, they're gonna take a little bit longer to cook, and although I do want them to be on the snappy side, so I don't want them super soft, I also don't want them crunchy, really hard, right? So we're gonna put those in now and let them saute in the oil for about 2 to 3 minutes. Once I start to see some steam coming from the pot and the vegetables are sort of dancing around in the pot there, I add in 1 tablespoon of freshly grated ginger and about 4 to 5 cloves of garlic that I minced, which is about 2 teaspoons. Now we want to make sure that our garlic and ginger does not burn. So at this point, I like to really keep things moving around in the pot. The idea is not to brown the vegetables. The idea is to start the cooking process before we add in the cabbage and the shredded carrot, because we just don't want them to be too firm, you know, at the end. Once you start to smell the garlic, it becomes so fragrant, and the ginger as well, then it's time to move on and add in your cabbage. One thing I did want to mention at this point though, is if you're using your Instant Pot or you have the stainless steel insert for the Ninja Foodi, you may need to decrease your heat a little bit after the sesame oil heats up. You might want to back it down 1 step, okay? So I think that's medium high. The reason being is that stainless conducts heat just a little bit differently, so you know, you don't want to burn anything. Now, once you put in your cabbage, just mix it around. And now what's going to happen is we're going to have more of a steaming effect in there because we're not really sauteing. We don't have a flat surface, but that's fine. That's what we want here. We want things to start to cook and steam, and we're going to help that along and build the sauce by adding a few ingredients. So I go ahead and do that right now, but you could let your cabbage cook a little longer. It doesn't really matter. All right, the first thing I add in is 3 tablespoons of soy sauce. Now, if you are kind of concerned you don't want that much sodium, then try to decrease to 2 tablespoons. But I found that 2 just did not quite do the trick. It just didn't have the flavor. So I went up to 3 and it worked perfectly. 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar. And then I'm gonna add in 1 can of drained bean sprouts. You could also use fresh. That would be fine as well. I can never find them though. And then just toss everything around. All right, for my spicy friends, we're gonna add in a little bit of this chili garlic sauce, okay? I happen to love this, but use it sparingly, okay? Because I tried using 1 full teaspoon and it was a little spicy, and I love spice, okay? But for some reason, it just seemed like it was a little too spicy. So I recommend starting out with 1/2 of a teaspoon if you like your food a little spicy. If you don't like any spice, by all means, just omit that. It's perfectly fine. Toss that around pretty well so that it gets incorporated throughout your dish. And then you're just gonna leave the pot on until you see the cabbage wilting. And then we're gonna add in our shrimp. Okay, now, what I like to do, because this just balances it all out, is put in 1 tablespoon of honey. That is perfectly optional. Another thing I have tried in the past is putting in a little bit of hoisin sauce. That adds that sweetness. So if you have that on hand, you could certainly do that. But this honey just, oh my gosh, it brightened everything up, but gave that little bit of balance to the soy sauce and the vinegar. And I really thought it was just the best thing ever, really. So that's what I'm going with. Now, how long you cook your vegetables is up to you. I like my cabbage to be, al dente, if you will, so still have a little bit of a crunch to it. But if you like yours softer, then cook another few minutes. But I'm ready to put in my shrimp already. See how quick this is? I have 12 ounces of peeled, deveined, thawed, raw shrimp, okay? And that's what I recommend in this recipe. But you could use already cooked shrimp. You're just gonna toss them in at the end, then you don't wait, like we're gonna wait about 5 minutes for these to cook. I do recommend using the pound size, which is gonna be pound 21 to 30, meaning there's 21 to 30 shrimp per pound. It's a nice size shrimp, but it cooks quickly, but it really gives you some definition to your dish. You could use smaller ones, but they're gonna kind of get lost, okay? So this is what I like to use, and it's 12 ounces of them. Now, of course, you could add more or less. You could use chicken instead. If you wanted to use chicken instead of the shrimp, I would add it in the beginning if it's raw, okay? All right, now, try to get your cabbage over your shrimp the best you can, because now we are gonna let residual heat take over. So I just kind of push them down. They all don't have to be under, but I just try to get them covered as much as possible with that cabbage. Turn the Ninja Foodi off and simply close the lid. And wait about 5 minutes. That's gonna finish cooking the cabbage. It's gonna cook the shrimp perfectly so that they don't overcook and become rubbery. Let me just tell you, they're delicious. Everything's delicious. You're gonna love this recipe. All right, let's take a peek here. And what we're looking for is to make sure that the shrimp are cooking, and they are. They are not quite done though, and I can tell that because there are parts of them that are that light pink and then parts that are still that gray color. So they're not quite done, but everything else is looking amazing. So I will close the lid. It had only been about 3 minutes before I checked on them, so I still haven't gone the full 5 minutes. Another thing you can do is you can save your green onions for garnish at the end, or you could mix them in now. I like them uncooked, so I mix them in at the end. But if you want them slightly cooked, slightly softer, then go ahead and put them in now. Give it a nice toss, and they will cook with the residual heat as well. All right, let's take a toss around. Oh my gosh, everything looks so good. The shrimp are cooked perfectly. It smells amazing. Now, let's toss in our green onions. You could use those as a garnish or just toss them in like I do. And then take a nice big scoop out into your bowl. This will feed between 4 and 6 people, just depending on how much of an appetite you have. And what I like to do, although it is so not traditional, is I like to top mine with a little bit of peanuts. I just like that extra crunch. All right, here we go. First, let me get one of those bigger vegetables. Here's one of the celery pieces. Oh my goodness, that's so good. All right, one of those beautiful shrimp. Oh my goodness. Now, you know what's interesting with this one? Is I hardly taste any spice. So, you fix it. But I'm gonna try to be really careful. You know what else would be good if you can't find the, I always say it wrong, the chili garlic sauce? Use some red pepper flakes. Now, if you feel like it doesn't have enough flavor for you, one thing I would recommend is definitely get down here and get some of that juice, okay? Because that is where all the flavor is. So just take a spoon and get down there and ladle that over top. But also, you could add in a little bit more soy sauce if you wanted. You could add in a little bit of salt if you felt like it needed it. Like this batch, I feel like could use a little bit more salt. Not even sure why, because I made this like 3 times and same ingredients, and it's always been delicious. Okay. All right. That did it. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Really, really delicious. Very light. The flavors are mild, okay? So if you're expecting a hit you in the face, kind of a spicy or really super flavorful egg roll in a bowl, you're probably gonna need to add a little bit more soy sauce or a little hoisin sauce. What I like about this though is that all of the flavors of the vegetables and the shrimp come out with that little bit of acid from the vinegar, with a little bit of sweetness from the honey, a little bit of spice, and the soy sauce. And I think it's balanced beautifully. But whenever you're making a dish like this, adapt it to what you love, okay? So add in different things and play around with it, but the basics are gonna stay the same. Use your Ninja Foodi or a pan on the stove. It's a super quick and easy dinner.